Hey, first grade, welcome back to Reading Workshop Tips with Mrs. Lee. Today we're going to practice making inferences as we read a story together. Inference is just a fancy way for describing something that great readers do all the time and something that you guys do all the time when you're answering questions about your books. When we make an inference, we're using what we already know inside of our own minds. We call this another fancy word for this is our schema. But we're using what we already know about the world, and then we're combining that with evidence or clues from the text. So sometimes we go into the text and we can find an answer right inside the text. For example, if we were reading a book about cars, and at the beginning there was a red car on the first page, and your teacher said, "What was the color of the car at the beginning of the book?" We could just go back and find the text evidence right there. It's a red car. But sometimes the evidence might not be right there. We have to combine what's in the text with what we already know to make an inference. And sometimes these types of questions can be sort of tricky. So we're going to do a little warm up where you're going to get some clues. You're going to combine those clues with what you already know, and you're going to make an inference. After we do our warm up, we're going to read a book together and practice making some inferences together as we read. The first graders could not wait to get off the bus and start their field trip. First, they saw the seals. Then they saw a person feeding the penguins. Next, they went to see if they could find the big sea turtle in the tank. The question is, where was the first grade field trip? Go back, look for clues, think about what you know, and see if you can figure it out. So I'm seeing some really important clues. They saw the seals. Okay, well, I know that there can be seals at the zoo, some zoos. I know there can be seals at the ocean. I know there can be seals at the aquarium. I don't have enough clues yet to make a decision or make an inference. Oh, so they saw a person feeding penguins. Well, usually a person wouldn't be feeding penguins if you saw them like out in the wild. So I'm thinking this must be inside of a building. And let's see, next they went to see if they could find a big sea turtle in the tank. So this isn't in the wild. This is inside of a building. Now I'm thinking if there's seals, penguins, and a sea turtle, that can't be the zoo. That has to be the aquarium. If you guessed that, nice job. All right, I think we're warmed up and ready. Now we're going to read a book called Jessica by Kevin Henkes. And as we're reading this book, we're going to pause in a few places to stop and see if we can make inferences. Here we go. Ruthie Sims didn't have a dog. She didn't have a cat or a brother or a sister. But Jessica was the next best thing. Jessica went wherever Ruthie went. She's saying, "My toes are cold too, Jessica." To the moon, to the playground, to Ruthie's grandma's for the weekend. And then these little parts here, they say, "Not too high, Jessica." And this one says, "Jessica's not ready yet." Now, I already have some questions, but I'm going to keep reading for a second. "There is no Jessica," said Ruthie's parents. But there was. She ate with Ruthie, says, "Careful, Jessica, it's hot." Looked at books with Ruthie, once upon a time, a Jessica. And took turns stacking blocks with Ruthie, building towers. So now I want to pause here and I want you to make an inference. Who is Jessica? Now, I'm looking back in the book, and it doesn't tell us who Jessica is. But there are some clues here. And if I combine those clues with what I know in my own mind, I can make a pretty good inference about who Jessica is. Can you? If you think you know who Jessica is, go ahead and write it down on a piece of paper or just shout it out. So let me show you some of the clues that I'm looking at. I notice on this page she's introducing Jessica, but there's no one on the chair. And on this page, what do you notice? Go ahead, just shout it out. Exactly. She's pulling a sled, but no one's on it. She's pretending to jump off the chair, but there's no one on this chair. She says that Jessica's at the playground, but there's no one on the swing. And here, she says she's going to Grandma's for the weekend. Jessica's luggage isn't packed, and Jessica isn't even there. Then on this page, her parents say there is no Jessica. But Ruthie says she's eating with her, even though there's no one there. And that she's reading with her, even though there's no one there. And that she's building blocks with her, even though there's no one there. So when I put all these clues together, I'm thinking, wait a second, I agree with her parents. There is no Jessica. But then I'm thinking in my mind that sometimes I know kids like to have imaginary friends. And I've even read other books about characters who have an imaginary friend to keep them company. So I'm thinking Jessica is Ruthie's imaginary friend. Were you thinking the same thing? If you were thinking the same thing, give yourself a pat on the back. You just made an inference. You can also put a star on your paper if you wrote that down. Let's keep reading. If Ruthie was mad, so was Jessica. If Ruthie was sad, Jessica was too. And if Ruthie was glad, Jessica felt exactly the same. When Ruthie accidentally spilled some juice, she said Jessica did it, and she's sorry. When Ruthie's parents called a babysitter because they wanted to go to a movie one night, Ruthie said Jessica has a stomach ache and wants you to stay home. And when Ruthie turned 5, it was Jessica's 5th birthday too. There is no Jessica, said Ruthie's parents. She went to bed with Ruthie. Sleep tight, Jessica. She got up with Ruthie. Rise and shine, Jessica. And she stayed with Ruthie all the while in between. Ready or not, here I come. On the night before the first day of kindergarten, Ruthie's mother said, I think Jessica should stay home tomorrow, Ruthie's father said. You'll meet a lot of nice children. You can make new friends. But Jessica went anyway. And right here it says, come on, Jessica, it'll be okay. So now I have a question for you on this page. And you're going to get another chance to make an inference. Why do you think Ruthie decided that Jessica should go with her to school anyway, even though her parents told her she was probably going to meet a lot of nice new friends at school? So right here, now I need to make an inference. I'm thinking about what already happened in the beginning of the book. I'm thinking there. Those are the clues from the text about why Ruthie might want Jessica to come to school with her. Now I'm going to combine that with what I know. I know sometimes starting a new school year can make me feel kind of nervous, even as a teacher. But also when I was younger and I started a new school year, sometimes I felt nervous. And I'm combining that with thinking about how Ruthie likes to do a lot of things with Jessica, and Jessica keeps Ruthie comfortable and makes her feel like she has someone with her all the time. So I want you to put those two things together and make an inference. Why do you think Ruthie wants Jessica to come to school with her? That's right. I'm thinking the same thing. I'm thinking that Jessica is going to go to school with Ruthie because Ruthie's nervous about the first day of school and she wants her imaginary friend Jessica to keep her comfortable and make her feel comfortable on her first day of school. And also so she won't have to be alone or feel alone. Good thinking. Let's see what happens when she gets to school. Jessica wanted to go home so badly that Ruthie had to hold her hands and whisper to her. When the teacher announced everyone's name, Ruthie and Jessica weren't listening. Jessica crawled through a tunnel with Ruthie. She took a nap with Ruthie, and she shared Ruthie's paintbrush during art. And right here it says, I can't sleep either, Jessica. And don't get lost, Jessica. When the children lined up 2 by 2 to march to the lavatory, that's another word for the bathroom, Jessica was right next to Ruthie. A girl came up to Ruthie and stood by her side. Can I be your partner? She asked. Ruthie didn't know what to say. So now I want to pause here and make another inference with you. This one's super tricky. Are you ready for the challenge? So I'm wondering, when this new girl came up to Ruthie and asked if she could be her partner, why do you think Ruthie didn't know what to say? Take a moment and think about it. Well, let's put our clues together with what we know. So we know from the book that everyone has a partner. And we know that Ruthie's partner was her imaginary friend, Jessica. Now, what do we know about Ruthie and Jessica? Well, we know that Jessica makes Ruthie feel comfortable and keeps her company, even though she's an imaginary friend. So now I'm thinking about if I was in Ruthie's shoes, that means like if I was Ruthie and somebody came up to me and asked if they could be my partner, and I was always used to having my imaginary friend Jessica as my partner, I might feel a little bit, how do you think you'd feel? Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I might feel a little bit nervous or shy because I know that Ruthie was so used to playing with Jessica, her imaginary friend, and that's who made her feel comfortable. So, yeah, I think Ruthie didn't know what to say because she was just feeling a little shy and nervous to have a new friend. Now, again, this was an inference because it didn't tell us on this page why Ruthie didn't know what to say. But we stopped, we thought about clues from the text and what we already know about maybe being in a situation similar to Ruthie's, and that helped us to make an inference. We make inferences all the time while we read, but it's really important to stop and think carefully because sometimes these types of questions can be trickier to answer, and it's really important that we stop and think carefully about them. Let's keep reading. My name is Jessica, said the girl. It is, said Ruthie. The girl nodded. Mine's Ruthie, said Ruthie, smiling. And they walked down the hallway, hand in hand. Wait a second. This is strange. She said her name is Jessica. Now, I know that Jessica was also the name of Ruthie's imaginary friend. And I'm thinking that this is like now really a real girl named Jessica who's becoming Ruthie's friend. That's so cool. I'm wondering what she's going to do about her imaginary friend, Jessica. Are you wondering that too? Let's read the last page to find out. Ruthie Sims didn't have a dog. She didn't have a cat or a brother or a sister. But Jessica was even better. So now on this page, it seems like she doesn't have her imaginary friend Jessica anymore. So I'm wondering, why do you think Ruthie doesn't have her imaginary friend anymore? That's right. I'm looking at all these pictures and I'm thinking about how it looks like they're having so much fun together. And now Ruthie has a real friend, a real person named Jessica to keep her company and to play with her. And I know if I have a real friend to play with, then sometimes it probably wouldn't be as important to have an imaginary friend. I know for myself, when I was younger, sometimes I would make up an imaginary friend when I didn't have other kids to play with, or when my brother or sister weren't around and available to play with. So I agree. I think now she has a real friend, so she doesn't need her imaginary friend anymore. All right, first grade, I had fun making inferences with you today. We're going to do the same thing again on Friday, so we'll get some more practice then. This week, your teachers may ask you a question that will require you to make an inference. Sometimes we can go right back to the text and we'll see in the text an answer right in the words that will answer the question exactly. For example, if we're reading a nonfiction book and it tells us about different kinds of birds, we can go back to the text and just read the list of words right from the text. But then other times, like what we practiced today, we need to combine clues from the text with what we already know to make an inference. Sometimes these questions can be a little bit tricky, but now that you know this strategy, I know that you're going to be really good at answering those types of questions this week in your conferences and when you're on Freckle. I had a great time reading with you again today, and I will see you again on Friday. In the meantime, I hope you're doing lots of reading. Right now, after this video is done, it would be a great time to go grab some books or go find some books on Epic that you're interested in reading and take some time to do some reading, just like we do in Reading Workshop every day at school. I'm sure your teachers will be really excited to hear all about the books you've been reading. I'm excited to see you again Friday. Bye.